Yo, yo.
You,
Yo, my brother,
what's up?
what's going down, man?
I'm good. I just went on a long ass bike ride, so I'm a little
Okay.
sweaty.
I hear that, man. I miss that LA weather, bro.
I know, I know. How you doing?
I'm all right, bro. I'm taking it easy, man. I'm trying to keep my head straight, trying to keep my family,
Yep.
busy and the whole
Everybody
thing.
safe and sound, or what?
Yeah, thank God everybody's good, man. Nothing nothing's going on with them that isn't going on with everybody else, but thank God it's just that. How you guys doing?
We're good. Everybody's good out here. We have a friend, an actor friend of ours, that is in rough shape,
Oh man.
um, in the hospital, and we're all he's fighting for his life, basically.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, man, I hope everybody that
Yeah,
sees
man.
this or hears
Everyone
this
has it
keeps on their
rough.
throats.
Your state and city has it a lot more rough than we have it out here, but still crazy.
Yeah, you know how it goes, man. New York is always wild. It's next level wild.
Yeah, man. And they ramped everything up, good, bad, ugly. You know.
So I'm just curious, like, what's the vibe out in LA right now? What's the like? How it's just quiet?
It's super quiet. Streets are pretty empty. We rode our bike through the park, and surprisingly, there was quite a bit of people, but no one close to each other. Everyone was about 15, 20 feet away from each other, but it was somewhat crowded, but it was also 80 degrees and sunny. So I can understand wanting to get out of the house a little bit, but the stores are all closed. Everything's closed. The markets are open, and there's lines and gloves and masks and everything you can imagine to protect people. But it's weird. It's definitely weird. It feels like um, end times, even though it's not.
Yeah, it definitely is. New York is strange. You got a bunch of people that are like tense, and then you got a whole nother group that don't give a shit and they just want to do whatever they want to do anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's scary, but we gotta, you know what I'm saying, try to stay positive and stay
I'm just
focused
keeping
on
up
the
with
good stuff.
Jada Kiss's hunting season challenge.
You gonna spit something for
No, but
it?
holy shit, some of these kids are bringing it. Like, yo,
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. Kid from Yonkers, kid from the Bronx I saw yesterday, Dragon, and
yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, my man Large Amount, you got to check him out. He spit one too. He's at
Okay.
we're all from the same hood. He was he used to run with Kissing them for a little while. He was on both of the D Block albums. So like, check out his. I'll send it to you.
All
I'll
right,
send it
cool.
to you. Yeah, check it out
Cool.
though, man. But yeah,
Cool.
man, I'm glad that we able to do this, man. I think people would enjoy it. I think people gonna like to
Yep.
hear some of this knowledge about a lot of this entertainment that they've been consuming, and that
Yep.
you and your family have helped provide and bring to the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Um,
Very fortunate to be in a business that you see in hard times when everyone, especially Republicans and right wing people, and some in my family actually, they shit on the arts, and then when times are rough, all we got in our house is the arts
that's
and
it.
physical fitness, but it's TV and music and interviews and people you respect and admire, and seeing them talk and have opinions and not give a fuck. All the color in life that comes from the arts, in my opinion.
No, you're completely correct, man. Everybody ran to Netflix, HBO, Hulu, every streaming service, every YouTube video that they wanted to see. So it's
I mean,
ironic, man.
a guy from Tiger King is now a fucking major celebrity, and during normal times, I think that show is it does okay, but it's
Yeah,
a huge hit because it's incredibly well done and intriguing. And then this guy who is basically a guy you love to hate is now a major celebrity in jail.
100%. I mean, right after Corona, Trump, it's probably Joe Exotic. That's just like everybody knows. You know what I mean? Right now,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But
What
it's
up,
keeping us
Elgin?
busy.
Elgin just wrote Joe Exotic the God.
Yeah, Elgin loves Joe Exotic. He wants to sign the petition to free him. You know what I'm saying?
Elgin,
But yeah,
my
man,
man.
like if we can, let's try to go back a little bit
Yeah,
because people might not know you from New York, you from the Bronx, and you represent Yonkers as well, right?
yeah, yeah. My family is from Fort. Well, my parents are both from the Bronx,
Okay.
South Bronx, deep South, the real South Bronx, not the new Fordham Road South Bronx. And then my family was raised on Fordham Road, 183rd Morris Avenue. 1974. I was born. They didn't have enough room in their apartment for me. So they decided to, use everything they had financially to get an apartment in a house in Yonkers, small house in South Yonkers on the Bronx border, a couple blocks. Um, they convinced the kids that it was a good thing because they were moving to Westchester.
Yeah.
And I think they were like excited about having a lot of space and green fields. And then you realize it's just 10 minutes up the Deegan. And, it was a house though with multiple bathrooms, which, uh, according to them was a big deal because they only had one bathroom for 7 people for many years.
But tell them how many. Tell the people how many family members you got. Like how many
My
relatives you got.
sister is the oldest. She is 65, and then there's 5 boys behind her with a 20-year gap. So
Wow.
I'm the baby by 10 years. So
Wow.
my parents were 30 and 32, and they had 5 kids, Irish Catholic, and then they had me 10 years later.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So at least there was a little bit of wiggle room there when you guys all moved, but
Yep.
because people were at different parts of their life, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had more parents than I had siblings, because they were old enough to really understand life a little bit, and they were moving out as I was growing up.
Yeah.
So I feel like I had a sense of like security, that multiple people to talk to. And then, of course, in my rebellious teen years where we have a lot of mutual friends who were causing a lot of trouble, they weren't around for a lot of that because they were all out of the house except for my brother Robert,
Gotcha.
who, was my idol growing up because he was in the Marines and he went to Yonkers High, which I thought was so cool. And I was on my own because I felt like I was so late, but I had all these people to call if I needed something.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. You had a lot of role models slash parents slash
Yeah, one thing you
everything.
don't know about me that I think if you read up on my family and anything, there's a couple pieces out there about it, but we all worked at a hotel in New York City called the Wyndham,
I didn't know that.
which was on 58th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue. My sister got a job working for the Helmsleys through my father's connections back in the day. And my sister worked there and didn't go to college. Actually, she went straight to work in her career.
Okay.
And then all 5 boys worked at the hotel in some capacity. I carried luggage and it was a bellman, and so were my other brothers. And the one brother that decided to work behind the desk and be like sort of an administrative person was my brother Kevin, who went on to, own CAA and run CAA. And
Yeah.
he was smart. He took less money in the beginning and no tips, but he got experience with a suit and tie, and his charm was able to be a strength, and he could utilize it. For me, I did the same, except carried luggage and got cigarettes for famous people and famous guests.
So you was around A-list versions of people from
Yeah,
that.
I mean that, for some of the older folks in the world, the Cassavetes family lived there, and Ben
Oh yeah.
Gazzara, and lots of older actors. And then I met Julianne Moore for the first time there when she was staying there, and I was a bellman. And I went on to
Really?
represent her as a publicist and then as a manager. And so that's cool. But it was, for us, it was culture, because growing up in Yonkers, there was no culture. It was,
Sure.
either you were a nerd and you did well in school, because if you went to private school, the public schools weren't so good. And my family in the Bronx, I think they did a mix as well. And so the educations were good, but I think you were either, like my brother, who really focused on it, or you're in the middle and you had maybe like the sport or two, but arts were not a thing for me except for graffiti. I love graffiti. And if Elgin's still on here, he'll tell you we bombed the city.
You got your bomb chain
and
on?
my boy Amari, what?
You got your piece?
Oh yeah, there we go.
That was your joint, right? Yeah.
ZYCE
There
207.
you go. Yeah. Yeah, Elgin, no.
That's right.
That's dope, man. That's dope. So that was the
But as I
first.
was saying, I'll go back.
Yeah.
We didn't have arts. We had graffiti, and and I had friends like Matt Cusick, who's lived next door to me, who got me into music. And then I had someone like Elgin, who was my graffiti, buddy. We'd run around the city, and that was exciting but dangerous, and you get in trouble. And then you had breakdancers, and hip hop came around, blah blah blah, and later on punk rock for some of my other group of friends. But we weren't exposed to art. So when we went to work in this job in the city, first of all, it was a job in the city. because when I was 16, my dad put me on a bus at 263rd and Riverdale Avenue and said, come back with a job. And I came
Really?
back with a job at the Gap. And I worked at the Gap for a year, which was really fun because I actually wore the shit. And then I got the job the next year at the hotel because you couldn't start till you were 17 because it was a union job.
Okay.
And I was exposed to art and to people that had imaginations and stuff that was foreign to me. And in the beginning, I was just a knucklehead kid, you know, like a punk know-it-all. And then I walked out of there 5 years later after graduating college as someone who I felt like I had been through a school of culture, you know, and not only just the guests, but being around the city and seeing the creatures of New York City from all parts of the, you know, the city, from the boroughs to Long Island to Westchester, Jersey, Connecticut. It exposed us to so much that I later used in life, you know?
That's dope, bro. So, at what point did you make a move from New York to California?
You know, I went to St. John's and I worked full time at the hotel and drove out to Queens every day and went to school. Luckily, I had some of my best friends going to school with me because I didn't make that many, you know, friends in college because it was a commuter school. So I didn't get to hang out. I went to work, drove through Queensboro Bridge to Manhattan every day, and then got home at 1 a.m. But I knew that if I stayed in New York, it wasn't going to go well. In my opinion, I was still doing stuff that I didn't love about myself, whether it was going to bars and, you know, getting into trouble somehow. And I was still writing graffiti, believe it or not. But I wanted a fresh start. And so when I graduated, which I didn't graduate on time, it took me an extra semester because I just got into some shit. But I drove out to LA with one of my best friends, Matt Cusick, in a U-Haul. And that was that was 2000. But before that, I spent 8 months in LA right out of college. Where in 1997, I stayed with my brother Kevin for 8 months and just kind of floated around and had a job with my brother Steven, basically as a receptionist and answering phones. Moved back to
Yes, okay.
and then, you know, I fell in love with this city, and I'm more in love with this city than I've ever been. And you know, I still love New York. I love going to New York. My family's there, but my family's here now, and my wife is here, even though she's from New York too. And I wouldn't change a thing, to be honest. I love both.
That's the both worlds, in my opinion. You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
got both coasts. You got every, and then you can figure out everything in between.
that's
So,
right.
so when you were settled, right? What was the first job you had out there?
First job was a PR company that my brother had just started,
Okay.
called HBH PR. And I answered phones, moved boxes, moved furniture, you know, got food for people. And then I got a somewhat of a promotion to an assistant, but they asked me to go to New York and work for this guy named Billy Lazarus, who is now a partner at UTA, which is a big agency out here, still a dear friend of mine. And that exposed me to like A-list celebrities because they represented Russell Crowe and Gwyneth Paltrow and Jennifer Aniston and Don Cheadle and, you know, just incredible people that I was around all the time. Even as an assistant, you become friendly with them because you're hearing from them all day and night. And because people actually used the phones back then, there was no
Yeah.
email. We had one email address that was AOL for the whole company. And
Really?
that shows how old I am. But I was exposed to really high level people early on. And I learned how to behave around them and to like soak up knowledge and take stuff from every single person, you know? But I did that for years. I did that, you know, I moved back to LA after that. And I did that for like 5 or 6 years. I was a publicist. Did pretty well and enjoyed it, but I didn't want the same trajectory as my brother Steven. He was amazing at it. He's mastered it. But he was really good at it. I didn't feel like I was great at it. I felt like I was good at it. And I wanted to find something I was great at, and I couldn't do that. And, you know, I tried everything, man. I was, you know, I think you know this. I was a DJ for many years. I was a failed actor. I was a writer. I wrote for magazines. And then I got the thing that changed my life because I was at a really rough point in my life in my late 20s, 27 or 28, where I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I had no 5-year plan. Shout out to Toby if he's there because that's his expression. I had no plan. I didn't know what I was doing. I was basically getting into bar fights, drinking every night, living the Hollywood lifestyle. I got lost in that.
How many bar
All
fights you think
while,
you've had in your life?
what's that?
How many bar fights you think you had in your life?
Ooh, 30, 40,
Oh
something
my
like
God.
that. But I had no direction. I was lost, honestly. My mother had died
Oh, man.
when I was 25, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was sort of, my identity was kind of shattered too, because I loved my roots and I loved, I think I'm more of who I am now in my mid 40s than I was back then. But I was definitely confused about, do I belong in LA? These people are a little different. They don't really understand me. And then the people in New York stopped understanding me. They were
Yeah.
like, is that guy in LA weirdo? Is he pretentious? Is he, a narcissist? And none of that was true. I was just trying to figure it out. But I started writing and doing CD reviews. I remember I did a Public Enemy piece, and my friend Beth Altschul, who was an editor at GQ at the time, she ran the entertainment division in New York, called me and said that they're looking for a West Coast editor, and I was like, that is like a dream job for me. And I have zero experience except for being a publicist
Yeah.
and a little bit of a writer, but I'm not like a great writer. But the thing I'm great at is relationships, and I've felt like I can network really well, but do it genuinely, not insincerely, and I started working for GQ. I got this job. It was like a $50,000 a year job. Jim Nelson, was the editor in chief for many years and made that magazine into a beautiful piece of art, where he won the Pulitzer his last year he was there. But
Wow.
he took a chance on me when he met me. He was like, you're really well-rounded, sports, politics, music, movies, film. You feel like you know a lot about all of it. And I did, because I studied it. I loved it. And he took a chance on me. I got the job. A year later, I was on staff. I got my insurance and benefits. And I did that for 8 years. And that changed my life and saved my life, because I didn't know what I was doing before that.
Mm.
I think I had over $50,000 of credit card debt for a blue-collar kid from Yonkers in the Bronx. Like, that's a lot of money. And
Sure.
I was scared. I was like, how am I going to pay this? Because I had, a wealthy family members, but it wasn't like they were financing my life. They didn't give me money, and I never asked for it. To this day, I've never asked for a loan from anyone in my family. But the credit card debt, I was paying rent with my credit card, getting
Wow.
cash advances. And then the GQ job wasn't really lucrative, but it was lucrative upstairs and in the heart. And it gave me so much hope that I actually can figure it out. Actually, above my shoulder, there's two of the covers that I'm most proud of, which is Gandolfini and Clint Eastwood.
Wow.
But that job opened up everything for me. And, I got approached by several management companies during the years I was at GQ. And then I actually approached 360, the company I'm at now, where I'm a partner, and they were interested because they had heard others were interested. And I called them. So I met with all of them, got a job there, and now it's a decade later.
Wow. Was there any specific, besides like the internal workforce at GQ, was there anybody else like that you bridged your relationship with during that time that like gave you like a clear direction of like, I could be a manager, I could do this?
There were several I met every publicist, agent, manager in town, because they would all
Okay.
come to the photo shoots. And so I just built a network of some of my best friends to this day are people I met those years. There was one girl who's a manager now named Cielo Alana, who worked at 360 at the time. She was an assistant. She and I became close because we shot Matthew Fox and Channing Tatum, who she was friends with as well. And we just started vibing. And she's the one who actually said to me, like, you should call the partners here and work here. Like, you'd fit in really well. And, and again, I knew a couple of people that had worked there for 20 years. From when I was a little kid, I met with my brother Kevin or Steven along the way. So it was an easy transition with the personalities that were there.
So you never wanted to be an agent though?
I didn't want to be an agent because I'm never going to be as good as my brother Kevin. So
Gotcha. Yeah, and same thing with Steven with the publishing
yeah,
game.
they're masters of their craft. And again, I'm cool with being the third brother.
Sorry
That's
about that.
fine. But I really wanted to do something unique to me. And I don't know if I'd be a great agent. I think that's a different skill set. I think that's a different trade, even though we do a lot of similar things.
Gotcha. So when you jumped in, to the whole management game, right? Like, Well, they just gave you a client and you had to run with it, or you had to like come in with one
No,
and
they told me for the first year that I didn't have to sign and have none of those pressures, but you have to get jobs for people at the company that are represented there, and you have to figure out relationships and sometimes get them into parties and that kind of stuff and make introductions. And the first year was awful. I'm not gonna lie, it was really
really?
hard. I didn't know if this. I was like, wow, I made a big mistake. I left this beautiful job at GQ to go be a manager and be on my own, and it was hard, but I persevered, and eventually they let me work on teams for clients, and I figured out a way to get in their lives in a meaningful way and represent them well and with pride, hopefully. And then you start signing, and once you sign one or two, it starts to go. And then when you feel like you know what you're doing and you have some confidence, it builds. And I think the most important thing for me was I always had an opinion, and I was always not afraid to share it because there's not a person on earth I'm not afraid to share my opinion with. Um, and it took off from there. And, luckily I had people at the company that believed in me and fed me information and clients, and I built my relationships through other people. And sooner or later you start getting calls incoming about people. And like Margot Robbie was an incoming call from her Australian agent, Aaron Michael, who's a dear friend now. And, that's luck. I mean, you can't, I mean, it's not fully luck because who knows at the time what that was going to be, but
Yeah.
There's not a lot of Margot Robbies out there.
You got one of your clients chiming in right now.
Who?
Jonathan Tucker.
Tucker. He's my boy, dear friend, love him.
Yeah, no, he's a great actor, man. I love a lot of the
He's awesome.
all the projects he does.
If you haven't seen Kingdom, because they've been talking about it lately, Kingdom remains my favorite show of all time. Jonathan and Frank Grillo, my client and brother, and many others. I'm friends with all of those guys, Byron, who created it, and Jeremy, who was the executive. That show, man, was brilliant, and those guys were brilliant on it.
So you mentioned Margot, right? So like you have, I'm pretty sure you went from like clients, trying to get them in roles and get them going and keep their career pushing along, and then you eventually got into this comic book world, right? Like how was that?
Was that who was my entry into that world?
Who's that?
Frank Grillo.
Frank Grillo, okay.
Yeah, I mean, everyone dreams of having clients in Marvel and DC movies. And for me, I loved them growing up. I was passionate about them. I still have Hulk comics. That was my favorite character. But there was a role in Captain America that came around. And, Frank Grillo was up for it and tested for it against another former client of mine, actually.
Really?
And Frank got the role, and it was Crossbones, who's one of my favorite characters in the Marvel world because he's just a thug and doesn't give a fuck. And Frank got that role, and I got to know the Marvel guys, and it became like a thing that I was like, wow, I could be a kid and an adult at the same exact time and do it professionally.
Were you on set for that in the beginning?
What's that?
Were you on set for that in the beginning?
No, they don't. You don't really go on these sets. They are secretive. I mean, I've been on, I was on Black Panther set, but you got to sign NDAs and you can't talk about it. And I respect that. I don't want to know. I want to see it on the movie. I want to see it on screen.
That's dope, though, man. And then, so yeah, like you said, and then you started representing Chad, and that's crazy.
Chad was a. Did you meet Chad when you were out here?
No, I didn't. But you told me a little bit about like y'all experiences, because when we was at the Dom, it was like a little bit right after the premiere and everything. So you told me like the crate, but you can tell a story.
Chad, my best friend out here, Tori Kittles, who I've known for I think 20 years now. He had done a movie with Chadwick, and it was a two-hander. I knew about him and saw the movie and thought he was brilliant. And he got Jackie Robinson. And I'm a baseball nerd, and tracked who got that role. And when he got that, I called Tori. I said, how do I get in this guy's life? And he was like, let me talk to him. Let me have an initial conversation. His agent, who is still his agent, Michael Green, I'd known a little bit and got to know him much better during the process. Signed Chad. James Brown, I think, was the first job he got with us that, I thought he should have won the Oscar for that role. Yeah. The movie wasn't received as well as it should have been, but he was incredible in the movie. And, you know, and I can't talk much about the Marvel process because I don't want to, but that, you know, between that and Harley Quinn, and then I had Rachel Taylor, Jessica Jones, and, you know, and others. But those movies, I love going to those movies on a Friday of opening night, you know.
Sure.
That's
It
why I
bring you
do.
back to that young feeling.
Yeah, I want to feel like I am a kid. I'm 46 years old, but I feel like I'm 20. I'm a fan first, business person second, and my clients may not want to hear that, but that's the truth. I love watching them work. I watch the shows they're on. I follow all of it.
I think today is Jackie Robinson Day.
Yeah,
See how
that's
ironic?
cool.
That's cool. That's pretty dope.
That's cool.
That's man. So yeah. So getting to, I mean, it's got to be crazy, you know, being around all of these artists and being around all of these great performers, and then you're representing them, and then you're having to have conversations in regards to them and on behalf of them in a different way. Was that change different? Like, or were you still able to be as tight with them as you wanted to be?
I think, you know, you have to respect their privacy and their intention and ambition. You know, I think that's a given. I think that, but you should do that for your friends
Sure.
and your associates and your colleagues and your peers. I think it's all the same. It's giving people respect. You earn it. They earn yours. And then the comfort level grows and you start to have a more intimate relationship. I personally, like the way I represent people is I want to be friends with my clients. I want to know them outside of work. It's me kind of present them the right way, if that
Sure.
makes sense. And I think that's the most important thing because social media are important, but they don't really give you the version of the person that is really there deep down.
Sure.
It's a more of a like a marketing and PR thing. But when you know someone intimately well and you can, you know, legitimately tell a producer or a studio head or a casting director, like, this is what this person's about. I mean, Frank Grillo getting Kingdom at that time, it was a given. Frank was a jiu-jitsu guy, a boxing guy, a mixed martial artist. He knew everyone in that world. This was about a coach in that world. It was like, but they didn't know him to be that guy. They just knew him as
Sure.
an actor and they knew his work. But when I talked about him and set him up with Jeremy, who's the executive on the show, that's, to me, that's the best way to get someone a job, is to give them a side of the client they don't know. And, you know, that's why I think Chadwick and Margot are both so great in these huge roles. It's because there is a little bit of a maniac in Margot Robbie, and there is a bunch of brains and morals with Chadwick, and those characters blend into them.
Mm.
You know, and I think that's dope. I think that's
And,
dope.
and you being able to, you know, speak on behalf of like Frank, because you had to really build that relationship. There was no faking it. You had to be cool with him. You had to understand where you come from. You guys
Yeah,
had to have, like, you know, a real rapport. And that's dope. That's probably a rarity in Hollywood. You know, so
it
much of it is
is.
about, you know,
It
getting
is.
things accomplished as
But I
opposed
get
to like
I
actually.
get as excited watching, you know, other clients on TV shows that are on every week. You know, that excites me as much as, you know, a great movie.
Sure.
You know, sometimes actors take jobs because they have to and they're not thrilled with it. So it's not perfect. You know, it's not always like everything they do is great. I'm not one of those people who's going to say that. I'm going to say an accurate portrayal of what I think the project is. And if it's not that great, you might not hear that much from me. And if it's great, you're going to hear a lot about it.
Hmm. Let me backtrack a little bit because we can't just gloss over shit.
Yeah.
So you being in LA early, going out to bars, being around everybody, you decided to be a owner of these kind of night spots, right?
Yeah.
Delve into that.
That was by chance. One of my friends I grew up with, Jason Serbone, who was Jackie Jr. on The Sopranos.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We went to high school together, and we were dear friends, and we still are. I just saw him recently. He knew a guy named Andy Frisella. He was in his acting class. Andy happened to work at all these New York spots. I don't know if you remember Sweet 16 back in the day, but
Name I remember.
yeah. And Andy moved to LA, and this bar called Max's, he bought it and was like, I need some help with it. And I was like, I had a PR background, so I was like, yeah, let me help you out with it. And, you know, this was 2003. And I I knew the bar business from being in bars my whole life. I knew the LA scene because I was going out all the time like an idiot. And I did tell him though, Andy, make this a hip hop bar. Like this should be a hip hop bar. It shouldn't be. You can throw in other genres and clash it, but have it be known as that, and that'll survive everything. And you'll get different crowds over the years, and you'll get people early that just want to hear DJs. And I was the first DJ at the Dime. Me and my buddy Ryan Best, and also a dear friend of mine, Michelle Page. We started DJing there, and it changed the whole bar because for the first 3 months, I think they used like an iPod or something. Um, and we didn't have a TV in there. Now we have, and it's still a dive bar, but there's a DJ there every night. Every time you go in at 10 o'clock, the DJ starts. We have people lining up down the block to this day trying to get in there. It started off as like a neighborhood skateboard Supreme crowd, and then it got like a little Hollywood because of all the connections we had. And then it became a mix of everything, and you couldn't get in, and we literally had to shut the doors half the time. And then it's settled in now to just, it's a hip hop bar. And you'll get YG and Nipsey coming in when Trump was running for president, doing Fuck Donald Trump. And then the next day you'll have DJ AM when he was alive spinning. And, that's the vibe we have. And no one gets treated differently in there. It's just a great bar.
I can speak to that, personally. It's dope. It's lit. And it's exactly what you just said. You walk in, it's no funny business. It's not even like I'm a New York kid like you, so like I'm ready for anything. You walk into a place and it's dark and it's a lot of music and people everywhere. And it's one of probably the most fun place. I've been to LA a lot of times, and that's by far the best place out. And it's the vibe you created.
Yeah, it's the first one we opened, and then we opened Winston's, which is a bigger version of the Dime that had an office in the back that was a little Sopranos-esque. And then we had another restaurant bar called Crown Bar, and they were all doing really, really well. And then 2008 happened, and the recession, and it hurt us really bad. I think Winston's was open 5 or 6 years, and Crown Bar maybe 3, 4. The Dime is now 17 years.
Winston's and the Dime, people don't know it was in The Sopranos. I mean, not Sopranos, it was in Entourage, right? It was an episode of
all
Entourage.
of Crown Bar was as well.
Oh, which episode?
I don't remember, but they were all in there. We know all those guys. Those guys are still some of my best friends, Jerry and Kevin.
That's awesome, bro.
And Rob Weiss, who's one of the writers, is a good friend too.
Yeah, he's one of like the EPs, right, and everything.
Yep.
So, at this time, like, you were able to create your own lane from your brother.
I want to shout out Carlos, who's in here, Carlos Lopez, who is an amazing photographer, and was around when the Dime opened, literally the first week.
Also, he might have some dope photos.
Yeah, he's great. He knows everybody. He ran around this town like a maniac. My friend Maggie is down there. I see her. Love her. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's all good. We just talking, man. And I just, people love to hear all this, man. It's really cool because you was able to carve out, your own identity. You know what I'm saying, from your brother's legacy, because you got, these.
But again, I think it came from doing what the fuck you should be doing, not what people tell you. I learned a lot of bad lessons of stuff I wasn't that good at. That I tried acting, for fuck's sake, man. And I trained with Harold Guskin, who's one of the best acting coaches in the live. He died last year, but now that I see what actors have to go through and how hard it is, I would never have attempted that, ever.
But that probably makes you a better.
You have to be so smart and so creative and so artistic to do this well. I'm not that. I'm a lot of other things, but I'm not that. But I finally found something between owning bars and managing and producing. I feel like I'm pretty good at all of them. And I feel it in my heart. And you could say, oh, his brothers are it's nepotism, and they never got me these. You don't survive in this town by knowing people. There's a lot of famous people who have siblings and sons and that don't amount to much. It's hard. You got to go to work.
That's right. There's no getting around doing the work in anything, especially Correct. In your world. You know what I mean? And I mean that's really dope, though. Having the ability but like you actually act. You actually tried that, so you can speak to your clients on a different level than probably others can.
1000%. It helps it helps when they're down and out and things are not going well, and you know, and that happens a lot. And it's, you know, actors lose jobs. Sometimes they get the job and still lose the job. You know, the auditions at that level are rough. I did it for 5 years. I can speak to that and relate. And it's a different thing than other people can say, you know, oh, I know how you feel. No, most people don't.
Sure.
It sucks being told no and being told you're not good looking enough, or not talented enough, or not tall enough, or not athletic. You know, there's a criticism every time you don't get a job. It's hard. And you could say actors, you know, are, there's a perception that they're soft, and that's not true. They are mentally incredibly tough. It's
Yeah.
gnarly. And you know, you can sit back in your chair behind your computer and make nasty comments on Instagram and Facebook. Until you've done that career, it's hard. And to
Yeah.
maintain it. Believe you're an independent contractor. You could be on the most successful thing ever. 2 years later, you're back to square one.
Exactly. How many people that we've seen in hit shows and classic movies, and you like, oh, what happened to them? You know what I mean? And it could be so many
It
things.
happens all the time. It happens to a lot of my friends. I did a movie called Tigerland as an actor, and I'm best friends with all these guys to this day. And half of them are out of the business, and they
Wow.
were 30 times better than I was, and 30 times better than some of the other people in the movie that have survived. It's a mix of chance and hard work and perseverance and determination. But I have a lot of respect for actors. I just do, and I'll defend them to any of my Bronx and Yonkers friends that think what I do is stupid. I don't think it's stupid, and they can see me when they want to.
Nah, I'm not one of those guys, man.
No, definitely not.
I saw you post a throwback, you know, a little clip when you was in Sex and the City. How did that come about?
Sex and the City, I actually auditioned for it. Just I had a friend helping me with auditions. I was scrambling and hustling. And I auditioned for a much bigger role. Not bigger, but like 4 scenes. But it was the episode when Vince Vaughn went to LA and was pretending to be an agent. I love Vince. I think he's fucking hilarious. And I actually hung out with him back in those days. But I didn't know, like, I didn't know him well enough to call him and ask him for help, because they always say no, like I do now. I don't tell people I can help them because your talent has to help you. But I auditioned for a bigger role. I didn't get it. They told me I wasn't good enough, but there was something else that I should audition for, even though it's like, I think it's 2 lines with a couple words each. And I would have done anything. Those days, I would have done anything to be on a set. Anything. I would have been a crew member, a grip, a runner, PA, anything to be on a set. And I got a scene with Sarah Jessica Parker and Vince Vaughn. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, exactly. It might have worked out better.
You know, lucky. I was lucky. It was fun.
But I think having that, you know, putting out that energy into the universe that you're willing to do whatever it takes is
I would
how
have
you
done
get these
anything.
Yeah.
Except for sexual favors. Because, you know, but you know what I mean? Like, I would have done anything. I wanted to be good so bad that I wanted to see what it was like. Tigerland was the first thing I ever did, and it gave me this incredible, like, classroom. And I think I learned more in that movie than I've learned on anything in life anywhere. And my mother died while I was making that movie.
Oh, man.
And I had to go back to the Bronx to have her funeral. And then I had to leave the reception in the Bronx to go back to set because I was in the movie and they needed my body around. Not that I had a whole lot to do, but I was in the scenes. And I remember this was the most weird experience. I was at this place called Green Tree in the Bronx. You probably know it. It was on 259th and near the steakhouse. And all my friends from growing up were there, all my brother's friends and my sister's friends and my family. It was a beautiful send-off for my mother who was sick for a while. And, you know, it was like Meryl Streep was there, and Gwyneth Paltrow and Julianne Moore and all these famous people that my brothers represented. And there were kids outside that, you know, that didn't know me that well, that I just knew from the courts or the neighborhood they didn't know what was going on in there. They didn't know it was a funeral. They thought it was some sort of luncheon. And of course I had too much to drink and got, you know, toasting my mom. And then I got on a plane to go back to Florida to be up at 6 a.m. the next day and on set. And when I got back to Florida, we shot it in Gainesville, Florida. The first thing on set was all the guys rallied around me and grabbed me and hugged me, and we all started crying.
Wow.
It was very meaningful part of my life, and literally the best experience I've ever had in the arts.
And it came from one of the hardest
Yeah,
moments.
but my mother visited me down, and she drove down with my father when she was on her deathbed, basically, to see me
Wow.
down there. She couldn't walk at the time, and my sister and my father were with her, and she basically said goodbye to me, when she left. And that 2 weeks later, she had passed. But she this is a little dark, but it's actually every single sibling of mine was with my mother when she took, not physically in the room, but they were in the apartment where she lived in Manhattan, or out to eat in the neighborhood because they were taking shifts of being in the room.
Yeah.
But they were all with her when she took her last breaths, and I wasn't. I was the only one not there. I was in Florida. And when my brother Kevin called me to tell me that she had passed, I, of course, was upset. And he mentioned that mommy did not want you to be here for this. She wanted you to follow your dream. And she didn't want to disrupt your dream on a movie set, which is crazy.
It's like she gave you her will, like she gave
Yeah.
you her power right then and there. That's,
It was, man, I'll cry if I talk about it too much, but
yeah, no, I don't want to get you all
it
choked
gives
up,
you,
but
it
that,
gives you like, it gives you a vibe of what you're about, I'm about, and where we grew up are about, and the heart we have, and the will, and the spirit.
yeah, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure I think I told you this story, and I told everybody, the reason I love movies and television, I wanted to be a part of it so much is, when I was 12, I went to see Carlito's Way with my father, and then him and my mom broke up, and 3 days later he died, and that was the first time I ever seen him cry. He cried at the end of the
Yeah,
movie
you
because
told me
he
the
fought.
story.
I know it's just
That's
and that
crazy.
yeah, I had to like I said I have to understand what storytelling does to people because I've never seen this man cry, and he
Yeah,
cried, and then he passed away, and then you left with all this, picking up the pieces. You know what I'm saying?
yep,
And then you had to do that in the moment with other people. I was just a
yep,
kid and just trying to figure it
yep,
out.
yep, yep.
So it's crazy how we gain strength through not loss but like difficulty. It's that's you only get
Because it
farther with
tests
that.
you, right? It tests
Yeah,
you if you're built for something.
exactly.
There's that expression, are you built for this? And most of the time you tell people you're not built for this, but you don't survive in anything unless you're built for it. And sometimes you're not, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I can imagine how difficult it is out there, man. Just
It, it's it, it's I mean, I think it's really hard because psychologically it's hard, and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses and be cool and make a lot of friends, and then people hate you for no reason out here, which is weird.
mm,
For no reason they don't like you, and you have to kind of earn their friendship. And I had a hard time adjusting to all that because when we grew up, you either get punched in the face or something like that.
yeah. You deal with things straight out, straight ahead.
Yeah,
Like
but here, I thought recently I found out that someone's hated me since they've known me, and this is a person who would ask for favors and call me with a script every 3 weeks, and then a mutual friend of ours was like, oh, he hates you, and I was like, why? And there was no explanation for it, but that's okay. Like, I know not to deal with that person anymore. The old version of me would have been very upset and confronted, but I got too much to lose now.
yeah, nah, it ain't worth, man. You had enough wars in your life. You ain't gotta go down that road no more. you know. But yeah, man, I mean, fast forward to now, I mean, you're a married man, things are good,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you, thank you.
You know, and the business is really going well, and that's admirable, and that's dope. That's commendable for all the things that you had to put in work for.
But now
Um,
I can live through my wife Cole, who she's exactly where I was at when I was having my doubts about career and life, and what, am I just going to go get a construction job? And I was, when I was acting, I was plumbing. I was going up to San Francisco and digging sewer lines, and that was the hardest work
right.
I ever had in my life. And that gave me like a perspective of how hard the everyday guy has it, and waking up at 6 in the morning and working so hard that your hands are frozen like this at the end of the day and you can't bend them.
Holy shit.
And I did that off and on to make money because I was broke. And I was like about 27, and Cole now is 27, my wife, and she's way ahead of my career curve. She works with the Safdie brothers, and her main job is with Travis Scott and his record label. And that is exciting to me, to see her just kind of know what she wants, and seeing what she can affect and the art she can touch. When I was 27, I was nowhere, credit card debt, and I was a jerk off, you know? And she's got it all together. It's great.
It's you know, women are smarter than us, man. You know, in general,
100%.
they get it.
100%.
I have daughters. I there's so I have a daughter that's 17. I wasn't even as a mature as her at 27. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's crazy.
I'm looking at the comments, and my niece Marissa is commenting, and I wish she were here to tell you, I should say, but like, she had a hard life. She's in her early 20s, mid 20s, and she had it rough. And I sought her out because I thought she needed it. And I was able to I think help guide her, and she's now off to incredible things. And I look at her and I'm like, she's smarter than me in my 30s, and she's in her early 20s. Like, women are everything.
Yeah, they rule, man. I got older. I only have sisters, so I had the best role models ever. My wife is the strongest person I know. She leads when she's not trying, and I
She's
always
doing a
try to
great
follow.
job, pal.
Thanks, man.
Say hi to
Um,
Emmanuel Shariki, who's here too.
oh, I love Emmanuel Shariki, man. How you doing? Big fan. So yeah, we were talking about Entourage before. Uh,
Yeah,
that
but the
just threw
funny
me
part
off.
is I work with her so intimately that I forgot about Entourage, because I'm working on all her new stuff, and we just announced the Superman project that she's doing for the CW, which we're all excited about.
That's going to be dope. Another comic book
Another
lane.
one, another one.
Another
Very excited.
figurine for the office.
Yeah. Oh, I
You
can't wait
know.
for that. Hell yeah.
But
My wife just said hi, by the way, so say hi to her.
hey Cole, how you doing? We over here talking about you. Good things only. So yeah, I mean, so you've come to this part of your life. I'm curious, like, what do what the next 5 years? What's the next? What are you looking at forward, man?
The next
What?
5 years is well, I think surviving this is the first thing. This has put a real halt to our business, but I am optimistic as fuck, and I think we're going to come out of this and make even better art, because I think people are going to hopefully be kinder and gentler, and more team oriented instead of individual selfish people. I'm hoping that happens, and I think usually at times like this, art gets better. And I think that's going to be the case. And I think the next 5 years of my life is, advancing within my own company, and building my clients to be bigger and, happier and more creatively fulfilled. But my personal MO, and my what's like if I had a company slogan, it would be like change culture. And
Hmm.
I want to do things that are in the zeitgeist, that our conversation pieces are talked about. It's great to do, some actors want to be on a procedural and make 300,000 an episode. That doesn't excite me as much as that little indie film, that supporting role. Sometimes it's that big role. Black Panther to me changed the world,
Yeah.
and I'm forever, associated with it in some way. I take no credit for making the movie, because I had nothing to do with making the movie, but I represent the guy who played him, and it was a campaign to get the movie, and it got it. And to me, that's exciting, and it changes the world. And zeitgeist is for me. I want to be in that conversation all the time.
That's that's amazing to hear, man. Especially coming from somebody who could just be looking at dollars and cents and looking at the things that, like, oh, what's going to be the
Money,
best move?
money is nothing. It means nothing. I've seen really wealthy people who are assholes, that don't give a fuck about people. And then you'll see, you know, people in our business that don't have a lot financially, but are the most enriched artists and passionate people. And to me, I'd rather have that than the wealth. The wealth is nothing. You do anything really well, you will make some money.
That's right.
Anything. If you're a great painter, you're going to make money painting. So you got to keep going at it and stay with it through the hard times. And my first year was awful. I felt out of touch. I felt not good enough. I felt insecure in the biggest way. But what happened out of that? Friends, family, colleagues, clients all fought for me and raised me and picked me up, and I got on a roll after that. And so you can argue that going through that horrible year is the reason why I'm here now. I could have gave up. I could have quit, you know?
Nah, man, it's if what you think is gonna break you actually makes you sometimes, you know?
Yeah, say hi to Armida here.
Hey, what's going on, Mita? Everybody chiming in. That's cool, man.
I like it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know you personally, so I know where you stand with things, but like I feel like more people need to have your point of view on this game because it's so flooded with, people assuming the worst of people, and it ain't all the time.
Well,
There's a lot of good
we
people.
do have a really large selection of uh, nefarious individuals, I would say. But I don't think about that. Again, I want to win those people over. I want that guy who's not sure about me, that I'm, that, oh my God, that's Kevin Huvane or Stephen Huvane's little brother. I want to beat that perception and have them respect me for what I do and who I am. And I think when you get that satisfaction is worth $1 billion, man.
There's one person I did want to ask you about, right?
Yeah.
Your relationship with Henry Winkler, because if you look through if people Google you and look at your bio, you're like, oh, there's all these people, and it's like Henry Winkler. It's like, how does that come about?
That's a funny thing. That's where things come full circle sometimes. When I owned the bars and I was on top of the world, GQ, and out every night, I got to know Zoe Winkler, Henry's daughter, who is an amazing humanitarian now, and works with a charity called This Is About Humanity. And they help out families at the border and immigrants, and they do important work now. But back then, we would just see each other out all the time. And I would bump heads with her, actually. We bumped heads a few times. And, I became close with her family and her brother Max, who we represent. He's an amazing director. But for years, I knew the family, and I was at their house. And then I believe we represented Max before Henry. And, I think Max brought up to a couple people in our company, you guys should represent my dad. And I was like, is that a possibility? Like, can we do that? Because if we can, we'll build an army. And Aaron Brown, my partner, and my colleague, Cliff Murray, we decided to meet him and signed him. And, he had said at the time, I just want to do great work and be a part of, something in its core, not come in and kind of steal the show, but I want to be a part of its core. And Barry happened to be that project. And to me, there's no one else that could play that role. And when you talk about actors and having them feel satisfied is when you say no one else could play that role. And
that's it.
He won an Emmy. He won an Emmy. It's awesome.
He won and he got nominated right after again, right? For next year?
Yeah, he got nominated and did not win. But he's been nominated twice in a row.
Love that show, man.
It's great.
It reminds me of Grosse Point Blank, like that same, you know what I mean? And
it's tongue in cheek. It's scary at times, and then it's super weird and funny at times. But I can relate to his character because I've been to those acting classes, man. And if you want entertainment, go to those fringe acting classes in the Valley that, people that can't act worth a lick are out there busting their ass trying to be good. I mean, it's admirable, but it's also very funny.
That's what's up, man. I mean, I really appreciate you talking, man. I know you guys usually keep these things to yourself, but I really want, I wanted people to know what's going on, bro.
It's the Yonkers connection, man, the East Coast 100%. Connection, and you're grinding to do your own thing, and again, how it's not easy, and but you got to share what you have and hope bring people up with you.
100%, man. And that's it. You know, I don't, as hard as this might be or whatever these projects, you know, we're trying to build out and make into these great things. I just know that the harder and the longer it takes, the better it's going to be. And the more, you know, the better it'll be appreciated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was 35 when I became a talent manager, and I knew nothing. That there were 23-year-old assistants that knew more about my job than I did. And I had been in the business for a long time at that point. But it was a new language, a new world, and I was intimidated as fuck. As much as I pretend to, know it all and be, super charming, I was scared to death and intimidated every day coming to work. But again, I started digging holes, and eventually you hit,
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, everybody that's out, you know, that might see this and they're trying to do something, just keep pushing at it. You know, keep
And I'm saying that to you too. Like, you
yeah,
never know when it comes. You never know when that one thing that changes your life. The best advice I have for actors is you're always one job away. One job, one thing you do can change your financial means, your respect in the business, your credibility in the business. And you can have, a down and out career, be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and one job comes. Henry Winkler was on every single show 5 years ago. He was on Arrested Development and Psych and all, but he was a guest star and he's doing guest arcs. And, he's arguably the most iconic television character of all time in the Fonz, but he didn't want to be known as the Fonz. That's fun at the time. But when you're older and you're talented, as talented as he is, you want to be known for something else.
that's right.
And now people, that are commenting in the comments about the show, how good it is, they don't even know who the Fonz is. They weren't even alive back then, but they know him on Barry. And
That's right.
that's a success story in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never give up, you know, trying to put out this these stories that I feel like need to be told. You know what I mean?
And you got to, I tell actors this all the time, actors and actresses, create your own shit. There's no excuses anymore for not shooting and writing and directing and producing. You can do it with an iPhone and $10 and shoot it guerrilla style, whatever city you're in. I've personally funded tons of short films of friends, given them money, because that's respectful to me. I love when they're out there trying to grind. Some of them are horrible. Some of them are good. Some of them are decent. But I respect that grind. I respect doing it on your own, because the waiting for the phone to ring is not a good. It's not a good philosophy. It's not really how it goes. You have to, you have to work at your own craft. You have to be good at it. If you're an actor, writer, producer, you should be doing that 8 hours a day. When I was digging ditches and working for O'Grady Plumbing for my friend Paul O'Grady in San Francisco, it was 10-hour days of digging holes and pulling literal shit out of pipes. But it taught me a lot. So when I came back to LA, I was like, I got to watch movies. I got to read plays. I got to watch a film, watch a TV show from season 1 to 5. Learn the craft. Because if you don't, you're lazy. That's just how it goes.
That's right. And you can't complain. You can't say it's other people's fault and make up all these other bullshit excuses in the world.
Back when I was in my 20s, Justin, it was an excuse. The phone had to ring for you to have a chance. It was a lottery win to make it. Now, Sean Baker shot Tangerine on iPhones, which is one of the best movies about LA culture that has come out in 20 years. And it was shot for $50,000 on iPhones. So if he can do that, I'm pretty sure most people can go out there and shoot something with a lens and an iPhone.
That's right. I mean, I got the clothing company. I never knew how to make anything. I YouTube my way how to do Photoshop, and I made one shirt, and that shirt took off.
But
and then
look at that, right? You have Mr. Fancy Hollywood guy over here buying your clothes and your line, right? Because I like your shit. I like what you guys make, and you can see the orders. I order shit all the time from there. I like the clothing. I think the art is dope. It's reminiscent of my the 90s and my heyday, so to speak.